Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Hopefully you've all had a wonderful Wednesday so far. Today we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we've got quite a bit to share with you in this video. Friday we have, and we're going to continue to reiterate, this is a very important day for not just the cryptocurrency market, but markets across the board, because the Fed, the United States Federal Reserve, are essentially going to release CPI inflation, i.e. inflation stats. And we know that the regime that they have chosen to embark on is very much to combat that. So this data reveal, if it comes out higher than expected or even as expected, I still think that is quite detrimental to markets and likely to see them see more downside. Bitcoin is kind of doing what we've set out for it. You know, we've kind of said, look, you're doing a very similar thing today, but a mini kind of bear flag version of what you did from January to March. And it's a smaller version, so the drawdown may be smaller. But we're going to be talking about that in this video predominantly. Cryptocurrency market isn't really doing a lot. It's kind of, like I say, it's kind of flagging at the moment. Certainly Bitcoin and some altcoins are actually getting quite a bit of relief from this. We did a Cardano video yesterday, but they have fundamental internal reasons why they're doing well. But when we look for this data reveal, the expectations are 8.3, so the same as what it was last time. Now, we had some news from the European Central Bank. They're essentially poised at this point to signal July rate hikes as inflation jumps. So they were talking about September. They're now actually going to have to bring them forwards in order to combat inflation, because inflation is running rampant. You know, they're at an all-time high. It jumps to a fresh record. Also had similar stuff for the UK. I mean, I notice it on a day-to-day basis when I go and fill up my cars, when I go just paying bills, electricity bills, all of this kind of stuff, gas bills. Everything has got more expensive, not to mention in the shops. And it's very interesting actually in shops, because sometimes you get the same package but with less in it. So you kind of get this shrinkflation with shops that kind of somewhat masks inflation, but you're getting less for your money. It's another form of inflation. So inflation is rampant. The fact that the ECB, the European Central Bank, and the Eurozone has had a higher inflationary print, you know, can we really expect a lower inflation than this one? Now, they could fool around with the stats and give us that. Markets, if I think inflation was drastically lower, so under 8%, markets would see that as relief, and what the Fed are doing is working, and that they may not have to continue so aggressively. And in actual fact, we kind of know what we've got, and markets have somewhat priced all of this in. But when you look at the likes of, and we will get into Bitcoin and look at the chart, I also want to talk to you about regulation, because regulation for the cryptocurrency market is around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. And this is actually, I think, going to be very progressive for crypto rather than restrictive. A number of things that make me think that is the fact that if you look at the big players that are now involved in the crypto space, many of them are very pally and familiar with regulators. So I would argue that they aren't going to be rushing into a space that they think is going to be killed off anytime soon, certainly not by regulation. But when we look very quickly, what I want to do is just take us to some of our commodities, like oil, for example. You know, these kind of the rates of interest rate rising that they're doing is not, from this point of view, killing off inflation. And it's the same with nat gas. I mean, look at nat gas. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And it kind of begs the question, well, are we moving into a stagflationary period where the Fed kill off the economy, but inflation persists? And that's the kind of definition of stagflation, when you're kind of getting battered at both ends of the spectrum. So this is really the thing to watch for Bitcoin. We are going to do a longer video on everything on my Patreon. You know, we've got lots of great content coming out there that I'm amazed with the response that we've got, and it really fills me with excitement to see how excited people are in regards to investing. That's what investing should be about. It should fill you with excitement, and that's something that I really love to see. But we're very much on the same trajectory of what we did over in January through to March, and it's likely to play out in a very similar fashion. And I think we've shown you that on a number of occasions. So we'll kind of leave that there. But the big day really is Friday. Something to watch for. It could be one of them controversial days like we've seen previously on FOMC meetings where, you know, the market actually rallies instead of pulling back on no alternative news. So if the Fed come out and potentially say, we're just going to steer to the course that we're already on, well, markets would probably go, well, we've kind of priced that in and maybe we can start, you know, trying to pick a bottom here. The bottom for me doesn't come yet, and it doesn't come because the dollar is going to continue to strengthen. And this is bad for all assets. You know, the dollar's seen a pullback. I would argue it's now on the rampage. Rampage is probably not the right word because I don't think it's going to run away. I think it's more just going to continue to grind up as we see other currencies start to panic. So I have lots of people saying, okay, well, if you think there's more upside, do you think that's tradable? If you look at the risk to reward for longing the cryptocurrency market right now, it doesn't entice me one bit because all the risk is to the downside. And failing to understand that is going to be an expensive mistake, I think. Let's move on to a little bit of the news. So the main objective, again, guys, is looking at Friday. And we will, of course, cover that. Patreon members, we're hopefully going to do something live with them. But then we will, of course, let you guys know what the data is. But the play for me is still downside. Where exactly? You know, we're, of course, discussing in the group and where we're looking to accumulate, etc., etc. Things to remember is the cryptocurrency market is still being built in terms of infrastructure. And this hasn't stopped despite the price downturn. So this bull market, in my opinion, comes back a lot sooner than people estimate it to. And that is going to be largely linked to the Fed. It's why we're talking, we're essentially talking like a macroeconomist right now, even though we're, you know, an armchair macroeconomist at best. But it's something that I'm so determined not to make the same mistake that we made at the end of last year moving forwards. And that is that we didn't pay attention to the macro situation, which has reigned supreme and has dominated all markets. We will not be making that mistake again. We're going to pay and take a 360 approach to crypto, not just from looking at the cryptocurrency market, but looking at all markets, correlating them and coming up with a real macro thesis before we look at the micro and the crypto space as an individual asset class, because it matters, guys. And hopefully we've shown you that. But the infrastructure still, you know, we've got the likes of Citadel Securities, Virtue Finance building crypto trading platform. Why are Citadel getting involved in the crypto space if it's just going to vanish and disappear? They wouldn't be doing that. You know, neither would all these big financial institutions. Crypto comes back in a big way, guys. But the pain is on. It's the pain trade right now because the Fed, I think, markets have essentially had the Fed rain money on them for years now. And every time there's been a downtrend, they've gone, oh, don't worry, we've got you back. That has changed. That has to change because they have lost all credibility as far as I'm concerned. The only credible thing that they can attribute to themselves is being complete market manipulators and you know, life manipulators. When we look at the way that human beings live, it's my belief that we're not living in the way that we potentially should be. Very controversial topic, but I ultimately think it still amazes me that people give up the best years of their life for money when money is completely controlled and manipulated by their government. It's very much a control mechanism, and it's kind of those shackles essentially. But this is not a philosophical update. So we've got a number of other things. Grayscale hires former Solicitor General to help force Bitcoin ETF approval. An ETF will come. It's just going to probably tie in with regulation and probably tie in with the crypto bill. And we'd often covered the UK, or we have previously covered the UK, which were talking about being the home of crypto, being the leader in the space. US said the same thing. This is all still to come, but what's dictating the price right now is the macro. And that's, you know, very plain and simple. Let's play this little clip from Squawkbox talking about some regulatory clarity and how potentially they're looking to the crypto overhaul could essentially class cryptos as commodities. And I think it's a grey area. I don't think you can just tarnish the whole crypto space with one brush. I don't think it's that plain and simple. And I actually think there are some cryptos out there that are definitely securities, as far as I'm concerned. But I think that, you know, to tarnish them all as securities is ridiculous. And the issue with regulatory clarity is the regulatory guidelines that we have. Crypto wasn't a thing when they were made. In fact, the financial structure wasn't as it was when many of these laws were set. So, of course, it's a changing environment. Let's play the clip. Then I'm going to love and leave you on that note after a few comments. And hopefully I'll see you guys maybe in the Patreon or in a later video. So let's play the clip, guys.
Two senators, one from each side of the aisle, coming together to push crypto regulations. Elan Moy joins us right now. She's got more on this story. And Elan, we're watching this pretty closely. What can you tell us?
Well, Becky, a bipartisan pair of lawmakers is unveiling sweeping new crypto legislation today that aims to foster innovation, provide regulatory clarity, and protect consumers from bad actors. The proposal from GOP Senator Cynthia Lummis and Democrat Kirsten Gillibrand divides digital assets into two buckets. Fully decentralized cryptos like Bitcoin and Ether are defined as commodities and therefore regulated by the CFTC. Securities are overseen by the SEC. But there's also a gray area of so-called ancillary assets. They're not fully decentralized but don't meet the threshold of being a security. Think of Cardano or Solana. Those are presumed to be commodities, but must file disclosures with the SEC twice a year. Now, the bill also establishes new rules for stablecoins, which both the Fed and the White House have asked Congress to weigh in on. The bill requires stablecoins to maintain 100% reserves in high-quality liquid assets and to provide regular public disclosures. It also creates a process for banks to issue stablecoins and a special charter for other financial institutions to do so as well.
We'll leave it there. It was just a clip. I watch Squawk Box typically every morning. This was from yesterday. Somebody actually that follows me on Twitter tagged me in this. Apologies for forgetting your Twitter handle, but thank you very much. You know, regulations are coming in regards to stable coins. We know that BlackRock are the main custodial of USDC. Stable coins are not going anywhere. You know, neither is this space. It's just a case of riding this, you know, sailing these waters for a little bit longer until we get onto calmer seas. So that's all I've got for you in this update, guys. If anybody's interested in my Patreon, check the link in the description. We also released a video yesterday called Welcome to My Patreon. For anybody that wants a bit more of a breakthrough of what you're going to get into that, it's just launched, so we're still getting quite a bit of stuff up there, organising community meetings and a number of other things. But so far, great response, great bunch of people in there already. And I can see it being a really valuable community to be a part of. All I've got for you in this video, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesdays, and we'll catch you in the next YouTube video.